With the surging number of people being apprehended at the southern border, U.S. authorities are taking new steps to deal with overcrowding. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol are using planes to transport migrants to less crowded facilities across the country. The agencies say it will help with faster processing. CBS News correspondent Omar Villafranca got a look at one of the first migrant flights.
This is the next step in a long journey for around 135 migrants. The men, women, and children are boarding a plane in Brownsville, Texas. When we arrived at the airport, buses were lined up, each packed with more than 40 migrants. The facility where they were originally being held is overcrowded. We blurred everyone's face to protect their identities.
And we're starting to see some family units, moms, dads, and younger kids. From here, they're checking their pockets to see if they have anything in them. And then they're loading them onto an airplane. And from there, that plane will take off and take them to a destination where they will be further processed. The migrants don't know where they are going.
According to immigration officials, they're headed for a processing facility in Del Rio, Texas. These flights, operated by ICE for Border Patrol, are expected to become more regular. On Friday, around 100 migrants were flown from the Rio Grande Valley to San Diego for processing. But the flights come at a price, to the tune of around $20,000 to $60,000 each, or as ICE told us, the equivalent to about $9,000 an hour.
The goal is to get these individuals into a safe and secure environment as quickly as possible.
Matthew Albence is the acting director of ICE. He said the flights are the most efficient way to transport migrants to less crowded facilities for faster processing.
It's being done because the numbers at the border are so overwhelming.
Last month, Border Patrol apprehended nearly 99,000 people. That's more than double the amount of apprehensions in April last year.
We're seeing a challenge that we've never seen before. And
Brian Hastings is the Border Patrol Law Enforcement Operations Chief.
If the family units were non-criminal, we begin releasing them because we simply ran out of room.
Some of those people are staying here at this Catholic Charities in the Rio Grande Valley. That's where we met Alex, who is from Guatemala. We asked him why he believes there is an influx of migrants.
People are hungry, there's no jobs, and it's just culminating into a lot of numbers at the border.
And as the numbers continue to increase, so may the flights.
It's that bad of a crisis with those high of a numbers.
Joining us now with more insight into these flights is CBS News correspondent Omar Villafranca. He's in Dallas. So, Omar, walk us through what happens once migrants are flown to a new processing facility.
Well, basically, Emery, that's when the immigration process and vetting process actually starts. They talk to the migrants, ask them, what are they doing here? If the migrant makes a credible claim of fear of returning to their country, then they're basically given an interview with an asylum officer, and that's set up for a later date. That allows them to remain in the United States. Basically, what they're having to do en masse is gather these people, put them on airplanes, and actually start the immigration process at a separate facility, because in South Texas, the facilities are very crowded.
So they're not getting those questions answered as soon as they encounter these people?
That's what we understand. We were talking to people on the ground there who were quietly telling us, we really don't know much about these people. Literally, when they're getting on the plane, we're watching them search their pockets. They've done cursory searches when they're apprehended, but before they go on the plane, they're not going through TSA or anything. This is not a commercial flight, so they're doing more searches. They have a little bit of paperwork that they brought with them. I talked to some people, what do you have with you? Everything that I'm carrying, that's it. So they're moved to that facility to basically start the immigration process.
Wow. So this is not the first time U.S. authorities have used flights to transport migrants. How is this different?
Well, it's different because ICE is telling us that you're right. This is not the first time. It is rare, but they're saying this is going to be happening more often. They're already using bus lines from what we understand, but now they're going to be using these jet planes. These basically they're privatized them and using them to send them to facilities. They're flying out of airports to other places, Del Rio, Texas, San Diego, and they're going to be more frequent, basically, is what ICE is telling us.
So what we've been hearing from authorities is that they have to do something like this to alleviate the overcrowding. How have they been dealing with overcrowding at these holding cells so far?
Well, it has not been good publicity for them, and there's a lot of people raising questions on if it's safe. We've seen the pictures of migrants that have basically been kind of fenced in, sometimes under an overpass, or in these facilities where maybe they're not meant to handle that many people, and you would have dozens of people per room. You've probably seen those thin Mylar blankets that they're handed. That's what what we were seeing when you had thousands of people who were coming over the border. These processing, well, they're not even processing facilities, they're border patrol stations. And these border patrol stations are not meant to not only handle that amount of people, they're not really meant or allowed to handle that many family units. And the majority of people who are being apprehended at the border at this point are family units. That means parents with a child.
Oh, wow. So you mentioned that these are not inexpensive, $20,000 to $60,000 per flight. This can't be a sustainable approach. I mean, it's just too pricey.
But at this point, I don't know if they have a choice, Anne-Marie. They have to move people away from facilities that cannot process them. There is a flood of people who have come in, and in order to process them, they can't do it there because things become overrun. So they're moving them to a place where they actually have space and other people. That's been a complaint of Border Patrol. They're saying they can't enforce, they can't patrol the borders because they're busy trying to corral these people and process them. So they're trying to move them to a little bit of a spot to alleviate some of the influx that they're seeing. But some of the numbers, not only the government facilities, we went to Catholic Charities down there. Those facilities, which those people have been processed, they've been let out, they have a bus ticket or a plane ticket. They're going to these facilities, which are benevolent societies, basically, and they were absolutely overcrowded. We went into one place where we probably saw kids, maybe 50, I probably saw 20 people in one room, but I saw easily 50 kids walking around in diapers. These aren't, maybe preteens. These are toddlers that are walking around. So these benevolent societies are also taking the brunt of this.
Yeah, no place for little children. And, we haven't even begun to really talk about sort of the long-term impact of this sort of experience. I'm sure that conversation will come up. Omar Villafranca, thank you so much.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.